The clock is ticking again to indict defendants accused of violent crimes or release them on bond. That clock was put on pause early in the pandemic after the courts shut down, and it led to a backlog in cases. Now Fulton County courts are open and the DA is racing to make up for lost time, but she's getting some much needed help in the form of funding. Joe Hankey talked with her. You spoke directly to the DA about this. It really is a race against the clock, and the outcomes to the community are significant. It is, Cheryl. That clock is ticking again. District Attorney Fani Willis says when she took over as Fulton's DA at the beginning of the year, she took over an understaffed office facing a historical backlog of thousands of cases. Starting September 28th, defendants in some of those cases, including murder and rape, need to be indicted or they can leave jail.
What brings us here today is a crisis based on COVID, a crisis based on historical mismanagement, and a crisis based on the undeniable rise in crime.
District Attorney Fani Willis went before the Fulton County Commissioners today while pushing for funding to hire more employees. She said from the time someone is arrested for a felony crime, she has 90 days to indict them, or they have the right to be released from jail on bond. That 90-day clock was paused earlier in the COVID-19 pandemic, but that pause is now over. Currently in a backlog of thousands of cases are 224 murder defendants who have not been indicted yet. September 28th is when 51 of them need to be indicted by, or they can get bond and leave jail. In the coming days and weeks, more defendants will hit their 90-day mark, and if not indicted, they could get bond. Without opposition, the Board of Commissioners today approved Willis's request for $5 million in funding annually to hire 55 new employees, a mix of prosecutors, investigators, and assistants. Willis says she is confident by September 28th, her office can handle indicting the 51 murder defendants as well as defendants in rape cases, and then they will move forward from there.
With the right minds, it can be done well. We can get out of this hole, but we have to have the resources to do it. And when I talk about resources, I'm talking about the people, the investigators, the lawyers, the vehicles they need, the phones, the computers, basics of doing your job.
And Willis says she started asking for this funding in May, and for the last several months, herself and her staff have been working almost around the clock, 40 hours plus evenings and weekends. But because of delays in receiving this funding, there are some defendants possibly charged with violent crimes that Willis says may be released on bond.